First, I'd like to take the time to thank all of you who wish me well. I'm getting over what was a head cold, thankfully. In addition, I want to briefly announce that we finally caught the person, whose name I can't mention, who's been hacking into my phone, computer, email, as well as my social media accounts. And let me add, I'm sure that the investigation will involve more people and open up Pandora's box. And as I stated when I first mentioned this a while back, don't cry when you get caught, and that day has come. I really can't say too much about this, but I'll quote what was told to me. People have to be very stupid to do something like this and think that they'll never get caught. Anyway, on to the video. During my time in prison, in fact, throughout all the time I've been there, if I heard the name Jerry the Jew, who was a jailhouse lawyer, once, I've heard it hundreds of times. I personally never met him, but every guy that I knew him or knew of him, and some even had legal work done by him. His real name is Jerome Rosenberg, and his story's pretty interesting, and here's how he ended up in prison. On May 18, 1962, two detectives from the 70th Precinct in Brooklyn, Luke Fallon and John Finnegan, were driving in an undercover taxi near 48th Street in New Utrecht in Brooklyn when they noticed two young guys entered the Borough Park Tobacco Company. They quickly pulled their taxi over and waited, but a short time later, they heard a gunshot. Inside the store was Anthony Portelli and Jerome Rosenberg. Both of them were ex-felons. They announced the stick-up by firing a shot into the ceiling, the shot that detectives heard. During the robbery, they took $4,000 from the manager and were headed out of the store as the detectives arrived. Allegedly, when Portelli seen the detectives, he told them, "Don't shoot, I quit," just before he emptied his gun into the both of them. Both detectives died. The getaway driver heard the shots and left them stranded. So Portelli and Rosenberg split up on foot. That getaway driver, Anthony Dellarina, would eventually be arrested in Connecticut. Anthony Portelli was captured at a hotel in Chicago and extradited back to New York. And Jerome Rosenberg turned himself in at the Daily News office on East 42nd Street in Manhattan. Following their trial, Dellarina was acquitted, but Portelli and Rosenberg were convicted of first-degree murder and sentenced to death. However, their sentences were later commuted to life. While serving his time, Rosenberg took a correspondence course from the Blackstone School of Law in Chicago, and in 1967 received his bachelor's degree. During the Attica prison riot in September 1971, Rosenberg acted as the inmates' legal liaison during the negotiations. The infamous defense and civil rights lawyer, Ronald Kuby, would say of Rosenberg, "Of all the jailhouse lawyers, he was the greatest and the best known. My former associate, Pete Bartolomeo, who was with Rosenberg, who everybody called Jerry the Jew, told me that most inmates and wise guys in prison would use him for their legal work. He also said that in Rosenberg's prime, he was a great jailhouse lawyer. But according to Pete, over the years, Rosenberg became addicted to heroin and not only screwed up legal work, but caused a lot of trouble in the prison. Dealers that he owed money to that wanted to stab or kill him met resistance because Rosenberg would go to the guys he was doing legal work for and tell them he had a problem. In turn, those guys would go to the dealers and basically tell him, "Leave him alone, he's doing my legal work." In there, a guy's freedom depended on his appeals, and Jerry the Jew was playing two ends to the middle. In 1972, he acted as his own lawyer and won $7,500 during a 9-day federal civil trial by claiming that reports that were prejudicial were omitted into evidence at his trial and also that he was physically mistreated. In and around 1986, Rosenberg had open heart surgery in which his heart stopped beating. So he filed a suit claiming that since he was considered medically dead during that time, even though he was resuscitated, that he fulfilled his life sentence. But his lawsuit was denied. He spent most of his time in the law library and handled numerous appeals for inmates, and in some cases helped guys go home. He was also involved in over 200 lawsuits. In 2009, he died at the age of 72 of natural causes. At the time, he was in Wendy Correction Facility and was considered the longest-serving inmate in New York State.